The Chicago Bears have hired a new head coach. His name is Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. He'll be the 17th head coach in Chicago Bears history. What's going on, guys? I'm back with the Chicago Bears offseason updates, which if you guys want more Bears content from my channel, definitely be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll be coming out with a lot of content this offseason talking about the Bears and all the changes that we're making. But we finally did it, guys. Okay, we finally hired a head coach. Ryan Poles was the one that hired this head coach reportedly, so he had all the input on this decision. He was the main person making this decision, and he chose Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator from the Colts. And I'll be honest, guys, when I first heard this news, I was pretty disappointed because he wasn't one of my top options. I thought that there might be better options out there for the Bears to choose from, but after stepping back for a second, taking a breath, analyzing who Matt Eberflus is as a coach, looking at what people had to say about him, looking at his track record, I feel like this could potentially still be a good hire for the Chicago Bears if they get the offensive coordinator right. Okay, that's the thing about hiring a defensive-minded coach. There's nothing wrong with hiring a defensive-minded coach. You can win. You can still develop quarterbacks with a defensive-minded coach if you get the OC right. Look at Josh Allen with Sean McDermott. Look at Mac Jones with Bill Belichick. Look at Lamar Jackson with John Harbaugh. Justin Herbert with Brandon Staley. Russell Wilson with Pete Carroll. You can definitely develop your young quarterback, get the most out of your young quarterback, even with a defensive coach, if you get the right offensive mind in there as well. So this hire is definitely going to depend on who Matt Eberflus chooses as offensive coordinator, which reportedly is looking at the Shanahan tree, which I think personally could be really, really nice. Okay, there's a lot of smart people in that Shanahan tree, but talking about Matt Eberflus then, who he is, what he's bringing to the Chicago Bears, his past experiences, I'll tell you guys all about that in this video right here. So he's 51 years old. He's been coaching football for a really, really long time. Okay, he started out coaching in college football in 1992 at Toledo, student assistant coach. Then he moved on to being a graduate assistant, then a recruiting coordinator, outside linebackers coach, still Toledo, then an outside linebackers coach, then a defensive backs coach. So a lot of time at Toledo, and then he moved on to Missouri, where he was a defensive coordinator for 7 years. Okay, had some pretty nice success there. Then he got to the NFL then. Okay, so then he went to the Browns, linebackers coach 2009, 2010. After that, Dallas Cowboys linebackers coach 2011 to 2015. And then after that, he got promoted to linebackers coach, and I believe that's defensive pass game coordinator. I'll have to double check, but I don't think he was the offense. I'm pretty sure that's a Wikipedia error. So he was defensive pass game coordinator there as well with the Cowboys 2016 and 2017. Then after that, he got promoted to defensive coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts 2018 to 2021, where he had a ton of success. And now he's going to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. If you look at his entire resume, he clearly has a lot of experience coaching football. Although he will be a first-time head coach now in the NFL, he clearly has earned his stripes. Okay, he's been coaching football for a very, very long time. This isn't some hotshot, offensive coordinator like Matt Nagy was, where he was only an offensive coordinator for like a year, only called plays for like 6 games. So it's not one of those situations. It's also not a situation like Mark Trestman, where Mark Trestman was mainly from the CFL. Okay, we're getting a guy that has experience coaching in the NFL, success coaching also in the NFL, and a guy that's really a no-nonsense, disciplined person. I would encourage you guys to watch the Hard Knocks episodes with the Colts, which they were on Hard Knocks this entire season, which I think that's on HBO. So if you get access to that, definitely go watch the episodes, because Eberflus was obviously featured in those episodes talking to the players, and you can just tell, man, by watching him talk to the players, interact with the players clearly respect him. Okay, I feel like our last coach, Matt Nagy, although players love to play for him, they didn't necessarily respect him all the time, okay? Because we were extremely undisciplined half the time. We had players, throwing punches in games, and like a lot of crazy stuff was happening. We had no attention to detail, but Eberflus is known for being a, detail-oriented, organized, and leader of men type of person. That's what all the people that have worked with him have said about him, and the players as well. So I think that in terms of that, okay, in terms of getting a leader of men, a guy that's going to really discipline these players, get them to buy into another culture now, okay, a different culture than we had last time, a culture where accountability matters, attention to detail matters as well. Indianapolis was the 4th least penalized team in the NFL last year. They've been really good with keeping penalties low, pretty much his entire time there, while Chicago has been top of the league in penalties during Matt Nagy's reign in Chicago. So if you really wanted a tough leader type of person that's going to have the Chicago Bears playing physical and hard football again, I really feel like Matt Eberflus could be that person. Again, I'm still a little bit concerned about the offense, right? Because the offensive coordinator hire is going to be huge now. We absolutely have to get the best offensive mind available to really develop Justin Fields and get this offense going towards where it needs to be. But in terms of what the head coach should do, I feel like they don't necessarily have to be the ones calling the plays. Okay, I know that everybody now in the NFL thinks the head coach absolutely needs to be a creative quarterback guru, but you don't have to have it that way. Okay, Sean McDermott was one play away from being in a conference championship where they probably would have been Super Bowl favorites, if they beat the Chiefs. Same with the Titans. They're one play away from beating the Bengals and then being in the conference championship. Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, is a defensive-minded coach. I'm not trying to compare Matt Eberflus to Bill Belichick, obviously, but I'm just saying that you can still win with these defensive-minded, hard-nosed, tough people. So I want to talk a little bit more about Eberflus's time in Indianapolis now, when he actually had a strong position of power as defensive coordinator and how he did. Because if you look at his time in Indy, it really shows you how he turned that part of the team around, right? Because the Indianapolis Colts, before Eberflus showed up, they used to have some of the worst defenses in the NFL, ranked 30th, 29, 28 practically every single year, wasting years of Andrew Luck's prime and, other offenses that they had. They used to be wasted because of how bad the defense was. But when Eberflus got there, everything turned around instantly. In the last 4 years, guys, the Colts defense ranks 10th overall in points allowed, 22.2, 10th overall also in yards allowed, 230.5. They had the 4th best run defense, only 99.9 yards allowed per game on the ground. And most importantly, guys, 2nd in the NFL in takeaways over the last 4 years with 107. Eberflus really stresses the importance of turning the ball over, and his teams have been able to do that practically every year he's been there. And these Colts teams also haven't had crazy defensive talent. Okay, a lot of their cap has still been invested on the offensive side of the football, in the offensive line, in guys like Carson Wentz now, in the receivers. So they haven't really gotten the most elite pass rushers or the most best of the best cornerbacks, but still their defense consistently has been a pretty good unit. Eberflus runs a 4-3 defense, Tampa 2, something we saw in the Lovie Smith days. So if you like the defense that we had back then, it's coming back to Chicago. Okay, I'm assuming that Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn will convert into being defensive ends again, which is originally where they started out their careers at and where they originally had the most success. Okay, Khalil Mack won a Defensive Player of the Year as a defensive end. Robert Quinn had a 19 sack season as a defensive end. Virtually all of his success came as a defensive end until, last year, right? With the Bears, he had an 18.5 sack season. But regardless, most of his success came as a defensive end. So I think that for Quinn and Mack, this could be a fantastic thing. Okay, going back to putting their hands in the dirt, that could be a great thing for the Bears pass rush. I'm assuming that this means that Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols are probably not coming back. I think that Akeem Hicks, regardless, was not going to come back. Bilal also was kind of iffy because he had a pretty bad season last year. We'll see what they do with Eddie Goldman now that we're converting to 4-3 defense, but it'll be interesting, guys. I mean, even Roquan Smith could see his responsibility shifted a little bit. We'll have to add more linebackers because the 4-3 defense is obviously pretty different than what we were running here the past, however long it was, like 7+ years since Lovey left. So the defense, I feel like, is going to be in great hands. Okay, Eberflus has proven himself as one of the top defensive minds in football right now. I mean, completely turned around that Colts unit when they were struggling for a lot of years before he got there. So I think our defense could return now to being a top 10 unit. We're going to get a lot of production out of Mack, Quinn, or pass rushers. It's going to be a fun time on the Bears defense. And overall, guys, as a pure coach, okay, as a leader of men, a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about Matt Eberflus. I know a lot of Bears fans are going to be mad, okay, because they think this is a return to the past. Okay, same old Bears, always hiring defensive-minded guys. We only care about the defense. But I would encourage you guys to look at the whole picture. Okay, the head coach does not necessarily have to be a hotshot offensive coordinator. Okay, we've already failed in that department the last 2 hires. Okay, Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy were hotshot offensive minds, quarterback gurus, and it completely blew up in our faces each of those times. I totally agree that the offensive coordinator hire now is going to be important, and if we don't get the right OC, this will definitely fail. Okay, Matt Eberflus will be fired in a couple years because if we don't have a great offense here in Chicago, we're not going to win many football games. But give Eberflus a chance to coach, give him a chance to pick out his offensive coordinator, and maybe it could be a good hire. Let me know what you guys think about this hire in the comments down below. I'm assuming a pretty split comment section because Bears fans are kind of 50-50 on this. Some people absolutely love it, others hate it a lot. Some people are right in the middle, which is pretty much where I am. He wasn't my favorite guy, but I'm obviously going to give him a chance to coach, okay, before I actually judge him. He hasn't done a single thing yet for the Bears. We can't already write him off and think he's failed because nothing has happened so far, okay? So please, Bears fans, at least give this guy a chance. Welcome to Chicago, Matt Eberflus. As always, bear down.